Hi guys. So I've been feeling a little bit detached from the YouTube channel recently. I don't know if it's just because I've made so many videos where I haven't been facing the camera for a while, or if it's actually just a product of my own mind, if it's just kind of what I'm feeling like in general these days. But I just feel like I haven't been getting the feeling when I'm making videos that I want to be getting, or I haven't been feeling as connected to Heart Story as I kind of want to be. It hasn't been really feeling the way I wanted to feel, if that makes any sense. And that can definitely be said for all aspects of my life right now. So I definitely don't think it's any sort of particular inauthenticity going on with Heart Story or anything like that. I think it's largely a product of my being incredibly busy right now. But I kind of thought that I might I have a lot of videos that in the pipeworks that I should or could be doing. I haven't done a Tarot of the Gods video in absolutely forever, and I do hope to get around to making one this weekend if I'm feeling able for it. And various other kind of video types things that I've been meaning to do that I just kind of haven't gone around to because I haven't really had the clear enough kind of headspace or the time to sit down and actually plan out the video in advance and know what I'm going to talk about and that kind of thing. So I do want to get back to those kind of videos, even just the short videos where I do the mini tarot readings where I draw 2 cards and talk about them in relation to each other. All of those kind of series and everything, I kind of dropped the ball a bit with that. But I thought that before I kind of started going into all that. Oh, and also there are some major changes happening on Heart Story right now as well. I'm in the process of kind of refocusing all of my tarot reading options on Heart Story. They always were kind of focused largely on spiritual development, but I'm moving more specifically in that direction now, and I've basically started calling them, I'm starting a thing called spiritual mentoring, essentially. So I have one particular reading that's called just spiritual mentoring, which is a 4-week kind of option, and basically where we have a conversation over the space of 4 weeks or however long it kind of organically unfolds, where I do a tarot reading for you each of those weeks, and all of that is kind of as a tool or as a means to open up a conversation between us to get you thinking and get you motivated and get you moving on how you want to develop your spiritual practice or move it forward, or if whether you're just completely beginning at nothing or whether you've been practicing for 10 years and you just need to shake something up or figure something out. And then I've got various different tarot reading options just as a sort of once-off reading that focus on various different aspects of the spiritual journey that you might want, a little bit of guidance on, a little bit of perspective, a little bit of my intuitive insight on your current situation. But that, I think I'm going to make another video about that, because that's something that has been kind of in the making for a long time, and I'm finally starting to move forward with that now. But that's a whole other video, I think. So yeah, before I started making all those kind of other more informative kind of videos, I really felt like just kind of touching base with you guys and getting really honest and upfront with you about where I'm at right now, what's going on in my life and that kind of stuff, to some degree, and to the degree to which you might actually be interested. I decided to draw a couple of tarot cards just as sort of to kind of inspire me in what direction I'm going to talk about, and to link in with what's going on in my life, just to make it maybe a little bit more spiritually oriented, a bit more interesting for you guys. So I guess I'm going to do that, but bear with me. I might just go off on a massive tangent rather than actually talking about the card that I've drawn at all, if you know what I mean. So the first card that I've drawn is a 7 of Wands, which does feel like a particularly apt card for me right now, because, well, a lot of the cards in the suit of Wands have that very kind of chaotic feeling to them, with that feeling of sort of struggle, a feeling of that you're trying to manifest something, you're trying to get somewhere, you're trying to make changes, you're trying to, whether it's in the outer realm or the inner realm, it's yeah, like the Five of Wands obviously very definitely have this feeling as well to them. A very particular kind of a feeling that I associate with problems that I have with anxiety and stuff like that, and feeling very overwhelmed. Obviously the Ten of Wands is the ultimate card of overwhelm. But the Seven of Wands in particular kind of reminds me of a kind of tendency that I had, and I think that, you know, a lot of people fall prey to this, of victimizing myself and feeling as though a lot of things don't go my way because of external circumstances. You know, these things happen to me. And I think it's important to kind of be realistic about the things that you can't control, and to, you know, not beat yourself up about things that weren't your fault or that you couldn't have controlled. And that's all very important, to let go of those things. But I think there also is a line that needs to be drawn, and I think sometimes it's actually really equally important to reframe how you feel about things that go on in your life, and start looking at the patterns in your life and the story of your life in a way that shows how much control you've actually had, and how much things have actually been active rather than passive, rather than things, oh, these things all happened to me. Have a look at what you've actually done, what you've actually achieved. I'm going through a very kind of rough patch in my life right now in general. I feel as though I've been in a major kind of shift for several years, and that, guys, is a really long time to be going through a shift. I am aware of that. It started to just feel like this is just me in adulthood, and I'm fairly aware that that's not the case, and that I really have just been going through a hell of a lot of transitions, having a lot of realizations about directions I don't want to go in, and having to like sort of scoot myself around and go, what? No, start to go in that direction. Nothing has been particularly stable or solid for me in, I don't know how many years, a long time. But I feel like all of this is finally kind of coming to a head now. Yeah, things are pretty emotionally jumbled, and I get that kind of feeling of the Seven of Wands where, well, up until this point it's all been kind of me against the world, and me and why are all these feelings, and why anxiety, and why can't I get enough done, and I don't have enough time in the day, and you know, my relationships with other people are just not what I want them to be, and everything, you know, just feeling sort of trapped by my own emotions as well, feeling like there were various things going on in my head that I don't want them to be there, and I can't do anything about it. And I feel like finally, now that I've reached the point of acknowledging that I have issues that I need to work through, is sort of finally allowing me to move away from that Seven of Wands kind of mindset, where I'm not sort of trying to hold the tide back anymore. I think I've always been a person who analyzes myself a lot, analyzes other people. For a lot of my life, I've been quite spiritually centered. And particularly since I've built back up my spiritual practice, and I've been reading tarot for other people, I feel a lot of kind of pressure, or I just feel like I should be comfortable in my own skin, because, or you know, I should be happy, I should be contented, I should be going in the right direction, I should have worked through any problems that I had, or any issues, or any emotional kind of tangled horribleness, just because I know how it's done. I know what needs to be done. I know what other people do. I know about shadow work. I've done shadow work. I've done a lot of journaling. I've done a lot of inner work. And I think, and I don't know if this is the case for other people as well, but I kind of tried to kid myself into thinking that just because of all this stuff, because I was doing all these things and part of this community of people who are very self-aware, and because I am quite self-aware, I just kind of thought, well, I can't possibly be messed up. Surely I am very kind of centered and grounded and comfortable in my own skin, and surely, you know, everything's fine. And another thing I will say about this is that I find it very hard to accept that I could have real emotional problems, because I have had a pretty decent life. I haven't had very many horrible things happen to me, and even the most horrible things that have happened to me, by comparison to, you know, most other people, honestly, they have really not been that bad. Like, I have actually been a very fortunate person in my life so far. I really haven't had to suffer much misfortune or horrible things done to me or anything like that. Anything bad has really been, in the grand scheme of things, quite minor. You know, my childhood was decent. I have loving parents who I have good relationship with. And yeah, you know, our relationship has had its ups and downs, but you know, who in their teenage years does not have patchy parts in their relationship with their parents. So I kind of have almost this kind of guilty feeling that like I should be okay because look at my life, on paper it looks fine or it looks good, or you know, like, oh, what are you moaning about kind of attitude. And I think that can actually be quite dangerous because it kind of holds you back from actually doing the work. I was really holding myself back from doing the work. And another example that I will give on this is the breakup that I went through 5 years ago. I sort of felt like I should be over that because a certain amount of time had gone past, and me and that boyfriend, we got back together, and I thought it was fine, you know, I thought it was like, I was over him, everything's fine. But what I didn't really acknowledge was that I was only over him because I didn't see him anymore. We never got to a point of being friends and being okay with each other and getting back together and not dealing with the breakup all over again. Was actually a huge mistake on my part, and I just thought, no, I can't possibly need to get into this again. You know, that is all, it's just, that is all over now. That's not relevant anymore. I moved past those bad feelings and it's fine. And I couldn't understand why the whole thing still sounded very upsetting to me when I thought about it, you know, that it would still give me this rise of emotions. And I just kind of thought that that was just me, that that's just how I am. So I think there can be a lot of I think it can be quite dangerous, particularly for people who do feel like they are very self-aware. If that is part of your story about yourself, if that is part of your kind of ego idea about who you are, that you are very self-aware, that you do a lot of self-analysis and that you know where you're at, I think it can actually be kind of limiting and damaging in some ways, because you can kind of think that you're there, or you should be there, and everything's fine, and you can kind of avoid having to actually do the work and actually uncover the real roots of the problems, because you're not even acknowledging that the problem is still there. And the fact that a breakup could still be upsetting to me nearly 5 years on is a clear indicator that something about the root issues there hadn't been worked through, that there is still something there that needs to be worked on. So that is something that I am currently engaging with. Not just about that breakup, but just about a whole swathe of things about my personality and anxiety and emotional issues and stuff like that. That is something that I am finally getting to grips with, and acknowledging that, you know, I never had a problem with doing self-analysis and journaling and things like that. I never felt like I had a problem with feeling like I was worth doing that, feeling like it was worth doing those kinds of things. So I kind of didn't realize that I had this problem of while I acknowledged that journaling and inner work and stuff like that was a good idea and was worth doing, that I was worth doing it, I still was definitely holding myself back from accepting that I needed help, and accepting that there were some very major emotional issues underlying a lot of the surface stuff that I was really just kind of, you know, scratching the surface with. So obviously, that's all quite up in the air. Everything's a bit all over the place, and I think it's funny how, like, if you're kind of going through a complicated emotional part of your life, everything else starts to seem a lot more complicated as well. I'm also sort of probably about to be finishing employment in the place that I'm working at the moment, and I've been there for 1 year and 9 months, so it's going to be quite a change if I do end up being unemployed there, and that's going to require a lot of thinking and, you know, figuring out what I'm going to do financially about that and stuff like that. So yeah, a lot of turmoil going on right now, which is probably why I've been feeling unable to be really kind of raw and open here on the channel, because it kind of feels like you guys don't really need to take all that on. You know, it's like that's okay for me to be unburdening myself with now and then with my friends and stuff like that, but yeah, I think, but as much as I appreciate that this kind of video won't be to everyone's tastes, I still like to have kind of things like this here on the channel. Like, I'm not going to start delving into the nitty gritty things about my relationship and about my childhood and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's like, that's not relevant, but I do like to sort of talk about emotional problems that I'm having and struggles that are going on in my life, because I feel like everything is relevant to spirituality and your spiritual practice. It really just is an expression of the self. And I just feel like this kind of stuff, people can relate to it. You know, everyone goes through stuff like this, so yeah. And the second card that I drew was the Page of Swords. And this is really relevant to me right now because it's another thing that has been causing me a lot of grief, a lot of kind of stress and just a lot of time, not so much grief, but definitely stress, and it's been time consuming, is that I've been trying to figure out what I want to do in terms of going back to college and yeah, kind of re-entering the education system. I had this moment a couple of months back. I don't know if I've talked about this at all on the channel, but I don't think I have. I had this moment a couple of months back where I was feeling, oh, I did actually talk about this briefly in a video on anxiety and something like that. I don't remember which video that was. But anyway, I had this moment where I was feeling very stressed out about Heart Story. It might have been the video on why it stresses you out to follow your desire, follow your something like that. But I was feeling very stressed out about Heart Story, about just everything to do with it was just kind of weighing on me, that I was feeling like it was a huge struggle to be trying to move it forward and all that kind of thing. And I just suddenly had this moment of like, I need a job in my future plan. Like, the job that I'm in right now isn't permanent. And I just suddenly felt like I need a career plan. I need a job. I need to do something with my life that will offer me some sort of concrete employment, so that I don't have to spend my entire life worrying about financial issues. So obviously being a librarian isn't something that's working out for me, and that's not the way I want to go. So I started thinking about what else I could do that would be more in line with my spiritual practice, with Heart Story, with everything that I actually really want to do, you know, my artistic endeavors and all that kind of thing. And I started thinking again about the possibility of going back to university and eventually doing a PhD. Now, originally when I had considered doing a PhD a good few years ago, I was just thinking about doing one in English literature, because that's what I did my undergraduate in English and in music. But then I was thinking about the possibility of trying to go for a PhD in theology or religion, study religion or theology, something like that. And that obviously is hugely complicated because I have no academic background in theology or religion whatsoever. So there's been a lot of sort of trying to figure out who to contact and talk to and talk about how I could do that, and figuring out, like, I will definitely have to apply at master's level, and simultaneously I've just been trying to figure out, do I really need to do a PhD? Do I even want to be an academic? And then I kind of realized I don't think I really do want to be an academic. I like the idea of doing research and teaching courses and stuff like that and being paid to do that. And having a sort of a fairly stable income doing that kind of thing. But I think the whole sort of climbing the ladder of academia and, you know, trying to, you know, just trying to get into that whole world is just not really for me. That being said, I haven't thrown out the baby with the bathwater, so I haven't completely decided that I won't do a PhD, but I'm sort of at the point now where I'm thinking that a master's might be more for me. And this is a very roundabout way of saying that I really want to actually educate myself more in theology and religion, so that I have a better sort of intellectual foundation for what I want to do with Heart Story. And more with Heart Story, as I said earlier in the video, I kind of really want to move towards helping people develop their spiritual practice. That has always been the kind of foundational thing for me in everything I do with blogging and YouTube and everything. I just want other people to be able to have a spiritual life, a spiritual experience, to be spiritually centered, because I genuinely think that at least for a lot of people, it is something that is incredibly meaningful and important. And I would actually say that pretty much everybody on the planet, all human beings, have some level of need for religion or spirituality in them. And how that expresses itself will vary from person to person. And some people, they just want the sort of social, religious kind of aspects. Other people need a lot more of that kind of individual, personal, kind of numinous experience, kind of spiritual practice kind of stuff. But that is definitely where I want to go with my career, I think. And I kind of have felt that for quite a few years, but I really haven't known how I might do that, what that would look like. And I'm still figuring out what the best kind of qualifications are for me to get in order to best do that. But I actually think that maybe doing a master's or some form of postgraduate research into maybe religious studies would probably be the most versatile kind of thing for me to do. It's something that it is definitely my greatest interest. I just get so much out of reading about theology and religion and cultural theory and stuff like that. I just get so much out of it, and I feel like it really feeds my theories and my ideas about how best to help people develop a spiritual practice as well. I feel like if I am going to be the best spiritual mentor that I can be, that I am going to need some extra kind of training. Well, at the very least, I'm going to have to give myself a lot of time to do quite a lot of research and really sort of develop a foundation of understanding of religious studies and what the kind of academic world has to say about religious studies. So that's, yeah, I've rambled on about that quite a lot now, but essentially I am hoping that I will be going back to university this time next year, well, next September or October. But I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to be doing, if it's going to be a research master's, a taught master's, even what country I'm going to be in. I have absolutely no idea, and that is kind of terrifying. I'm really looking forward to a point at which I kind of have a better idea of how that's going to work out and where that's going to lead me. So then finally I have the World, which is one of my favourite cards in the Shadowscapes deck. Actually, I should have mentioned that earlier in the video because I know somebody will ask. This is the Shadowscapes tarot deck, which was the first tarot deck that I ever bought, and it's the one I learned with, so it is my default tarot deck. The World just generally has me thinking about a lot of stuff that I've talked about already in this video, about where I'm going with my career and just arriving. And I'm kind of in two minds about this. Like, I feel like there is definitely a more stable version of me that I can arrive at, hopefully within the next, couple of years at least. I feel like I can definitely get myself to a point where I'm feeling more emotionally stable. And also where I'm just kind of have more of a routine, where I know where I'm going with various things, that I know what the next couple of steps that I need to take are. But I also have to constantly remind myself that I can't have a clear, solid picture of what I'm going to be doing in a year or 2 years, and particularly not in like 5 years or something like that. So I'm trying to kind of get to a point where I can cultivate the feeling of the world, that feeling of completion and satisfaction, and kind of having arrived to some extent, having arrived to a point where I can let go of all of that. It's kind of a contradictory kind of idea, but the reality is you never arrive completely, and this is true whether it's about your career or your relationships or your spiritual practice or whatever it is. I mean, you arrive when you die, essentially, in my mind, and before then it's constant change and it's constant growth and evolution. And if you're not changing and growing and evolving, then you are stuck in a rut and you're probably not very happy, or at least in my experience. I'm definitely not happy when I'm stuck in a rut. As much as it upsets me to be, completely all over the place, being in a rut is not great either. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for not overthinking things and just striving for some form of emotional stability, rather than having everything like planned out, like I say, in minute detail, or feeling like you have some sort of permanent stability in your life, because there's no guarantee for that whatsoever. I think the important thing is to find emotional stability in yourself, and get to that point where you are just so comfortable in yourself and so sure of your own happiness without regard to anything else, that it doesn't matter if things get a bit crazy, if things get a bit shaky, or if things just don't go according to plan, because you know that you have that. And I've talked about that quite a lot in videos over the past couple of months, but ironically I think I wasn't as much there as I thought I was. I thought I had a better grasp on that than I actually do. And you know, maybe I was in a better position in regards to that kind of emotional stability maybe 6 months back than I am now. Just a lot of shit has hit the fan, if you'll excuse the phrase, basically. So I think I'm gonna leave that there. I don't know what this video was. I don't know, you might love it, you might hate it. But I'm hoping that I will get a chance to do more videos over the weekend, maybe get 2 down. It all depends though on Nano. Oh, that's another thing I didn't mention. I'm doing NaNoWriMo on top of everything. You know, why not? I'm in utter turmoil in my life right now, so what should I do except, you know, try to write a 50,000 word novel in a month? Why not? So that's keeping me pretty busy. So yeah, I'm hoping that on Saturday I have a pretty clear slate, so I'm hoping that I'll actually get a chance to sit down, and in between writing bouts of 1,000 words at a time, that I might actually get a chance to do a couple of, you know, more thought through videos, like a Tarot of the Gods video would be fantastic if I actually got my head together enough. If that doesn't happen, I do apologise. You might be getting more of these rambly kind of all over the place videos while I sort my head out, which I'm hoping, you know, that things will start to settle down maybe in the next few months, fingers crossed. Okay, I'm going to stop rambling because I've rambled a lot. I will talk to you again. I hope you're all well. Take care. I hope you're all in a slightly less crazy headspace than I am right now. And I will hopefully talk to you again soon. Take care, guys.